I'm going to be talking about divisibility tests. And divisibility tests are important when we start to break numbers down. And with fractions, that's kind of a big deal. So what we want to know is just by looking at a number, we want a quick guess as to, is this number divisible by, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So we can begin to break that number down quickly and effectively. So there's a couple rules that we need to know, or a couple things we need to look for. The first one is a number divisible by 2, and how can we tell? Well, this is fairly simple. That number's got to be even. And what I mean by even is it ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Those are my even numbers, okay? Or odds, of course, are the other every other numbers, which are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. But if that number ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, that number is even. So the number 18, it is divisible by 2, simply because that last digit is even. How do we know if a number is divisible by 3? Okay, well, the rule there is the sum of the digits is also divisible by 3. Now, when we say the sum is a word indicator that means add. Okay, so we're going to add digits and see if they're divisible by 3. So let's take a number. Let's go 27, which most of us already know is divisible by 3. However, to illustrate our point, what we're going to do is because it's got multiple digits, we add those digits and we get 9. All right, 9 is divisible by 3. Therefore, so is 27, as we already know. 27 breaks down to 3 and 9 as factors. Okay, and factors is just another way of saying division. So when we're dividing by 3, we can add up the sum of their digits. So 126, we say, 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 6 is 9. 9's here again, divisible by 3. Therefore, 126 is divisible by 3. So if we divide that by 3, we can get a 4 out of there and a 2. Okay, and eventually we'd like to break those down to primes, but for right now, just so you understand, we can tell just by looking at a number if a number is divisible by 3 simply by adding the digits, and the sum of those digits, if it's divisible by 3, then the whole number is divisible by 3. Now we're going to skip to 5 because 4 is just 2 and 2 again. So when you split that number in half, it is an even number again. You split it in half. So we're going to split to 5, take to 5. How do we know if a number is divisible by 5? Well, it ends in 5 or 0. And if we just do what we've done, when we learned how to count by fives, you'll see that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all of those numbers I just listed end in 5 or 0. So I can take the number 45, it ends in 5, therefore I know it's divisible by 5. And 5 times 9 is 45, or 5 divided by 45 is 9, however you want to look at that. Number divisible by 10, that simply means it ends in 0. So any number that ends in 0, and I don't care what that number is, it ends in 0, I can get a 10 out of it. When I do, I divide by 10, it ultimately just knocks that 0 off, really, and I get 115. Okay, so just simply by looking at numbers, we should have a pretty good idea of what numbers do what when. Okay, and we can start to break those down a little bit faster. Now, the thing about 10, 10's kind of unique because if we're dividing by 10, really 0 is even. And 10 ends in 0, which means divisible by 5 also. Okay, well, if it's even, we know it's divisible by 2. If it's divisible by 2 and it's also divisible by 5, there's no other way than to get that 0. Okay, and really the only reason I bring this up is because there are a couple others that are kind of crucial that we know, and if we know those, we can break things down faster. Okay, so let's take a look at one of those guys. Let's say, how do we know if a number is divisible by 6? Okay, well, I already have that on my screen. Okay, so how do I know if a number is divisible by 6? Well, 6 is basically 2 times 3. So if I divide by 2 and I divide by 3, I get a number that is also divisible by 6. Now, what I mean by that, divisible by 2 is even. Divisible by 3 is sum of digits. Is also divisible by 3. So if I bring to light that number that I had earlier, you may recall it, 126. When I add 1 plus 2 plus 6, I get 9. Well, 9 is divisible by 3, therefore 126 is also divisible by 3, and we got that 42 number. However, it's also even, which means it's also divisible by 6. So it's divisible by 3, meaning the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, and it's even, which means it's also divisible by 6. And when I divide this number, I get 21. So it does work that way. And all of a sudden now, instead of going 3 and 42, my numbers come much smaller, much faster. So I can use this shortcut as well. And not only does it work here, it works in divisible by 9. Now, if we look at divisible by 9, we can say that that's basically, let me back up just a sec, that's 3 times 3. 9 is 3 times 3. So if I divide by 3 and I divide by 3 again, I get a number that's divisible by 9. So what we're saying is the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, and it will be divisible by 3 again. Well, here I'm going to use that same number. I know this is a little bit redundant, but I'm going to use that 126 number again. Okay, and that 126 number, we already know when we added it together, we get 9. Well, if I divide it by 3, I get that 42 number. Well, 42 is divisible by 3 as well, right? Because I add the digits and I get 6, which means 3 again. Well, if I wanted to do that a little bit faster than the way I have, I can actually say, oh, well, the sum of the digits is divisible by 9. Therefore, I can take that 126 number, get that 126 number back here a little bit better. It's divisible by 9, and 9 goes into 12 one time, remainder of 3, drop to 6, and 9 goes into 36 14 times. And you notice that my factors are a lot smaller. Okay? This number grows a little bit, but this number gets smaller way faster. And then I can break it down even more. Okay? And just to sum some things up, divisible by 2 is even, divisible by 3 is sum of the numbers, divisible by 3, sum of the digits, divisible by 3, divisible by 5 ends in 5 or 0, 6 is divisible by 2 and divisible by 3, which means it has to be divisible by 3 and even, number of divisible by 9, divisible by 3 twice, right? 3 times 3. Sum of the digits divisible by 9 is another way of saying that. And divisible by 10, it means it ends in 0. And I hope this helps you break down numbers a little bit faster, makes things a little bit clearer for you.